Hydrogen has been quite a buzzword, and with good reason. There's a lot of effort going into building hydrogen infrastructure, determining how we can retrofit and even upfit our existing infrastructure to provide for these clean molecules. We're all excited to see the contribution that hydrogen can make as a clean fuel to helping us decarbonize the grid and those hard-to-abate industries. I'm your host, Nico Johnson. I'm joined by Haiyan Sun, the program manager and team leader for hydrogen and clean fuels at NYSERDA. We're going to talk about R&D in the state of New York with the expert at NYSERDA, Haiyan. Welcome to the show.
Nice meeting you. Excellent. I'm very excited about the opportunity here, attending the conference and meeting a lot of others, and also get a chance to talk about hydrogen in New York.
Absolutely. Hydrogen has been quite a buzzword, and with good reason. There's a lot of effort going into building hydrogen infrastructure, determining how we can retrofit and even upfit our existing infrastructure to provide for these clean molecules. And I wanted to better understand how the state of New York is positioning itself with regards to what has been dubbed as the hydrogen economy. So maybe unpack for me why NYSERDA has a group focused on hydrogen and clean fuels to begin with.
Yeah, sure. I'm happy to talk about that. As some of you probably know, New York has assembled the Climate Action Council. From there, we identified hydrogen could play a critical role to help New York achieve our climate goal in terms of decarbonize some of the hard-to-electrify sectors, provide reliability for our grid, and also provide resilient solution while we march along to meet our target. The clean hydrogen could play applications such as the hard-to-electrify sectors in the medium and heavy-duty transportation sector, the high-temperature industrial sector, and the power gen sector, which I can talk more, and as well as the district heating on the limited cases. Each of these applications would require careful evaluation. Some of them may be available and ready for the near term. Some of them probably is the longer-term play.
Yeah, actually, I'm really curious to hear some of your thoughts around what are the more near-term applications that we can expect hydrogen to really play a role as we try to decarbonize the grid or our energy infrastructure broadly.
Yeah, sure. So like the medium heavy-duty transportation sector, I would say that's an area that's both technically more ready and also commercially more ready for us to leverage in the near term. And New York has the zero-emission vehicle mandate. And some of the areas battery can play a role, such as the customer vehicles. Some of them, as I mentioned, the medium heavy-duty sectors, they are considered relatively hard to electrify, and clean hydrogen would play a role to help us meet that target that New York State set.
So you mentioned the zero-emission vehicles initiative. Are there other initiatives as well that the state of New York has in place to support the growth of the hydrogen economy?
Yeah, so we also, like last December, New York State had this public conference assembled by DPS and NYSERDA on this target called the 0 by 2040 target, which means by 2040, New York State try to reach 100% zero-emission grid. That initiatives give us the opportunity to use hydrogen to really deep decarbonize some of the grid power generation sector. Today, most of those, for example, peaker unit, they are provided by natural gas power plant. And we expect some of them at least would be able to evaluate hydrogen to play a role to help us reach this 0 by 20 target, 0 by 40 target.
Fantastic. Speaking of play a role, a lot of folks in the community who are stakeholders as well in how the state applies these funds, maybe thinking what feedback mechanisms exist for us to contribute or provide feedback on the plans that are being made. What can you say to those folks?
Oh, yeah. Like NYSERDA, I think it's very important we have a robust process to engage the key stakeholders. So, for example, the R&D solicitation that we launched for the hydrogen R&D, we specifically get input from the key stakeholders, including some of the underdeserved population. And then mandate by our CRCPA, NYSERDA's clean energy funding target to get up to 40%, at least 35% of those benefits needs to go to the disadvantaged community. So we do have areas to get the community input, and we make sure the benefit goes as what the CRCPA demand.
Haiyan, yesterday you gave a presentation, as we alluded to, on the NYSERDA program around hydrogen that you lead the team around hydrogen and clean fuels. I remember that you also have more than a decade of experience in the power sector at a previous role at GE. So I imagine that hydrogen throughout your career has really evolved as not just a concept, but as a component to our decarbonization. Given the experience that you and the team have in looking at the various ways, the near-term and long-term opportunities, I'd love to hear your opinion or perspective on what has you personally most excited about the possibilities for hydrogen as we try to decarbonize the grid.
So I wouldn't say that I set hydrogen on my career goal 20 years ago, but definitely looking back from the time I was in GE Global Research Center and then moved to GE Power, spent a number of years there as engineering and then product manager focused on the gas turbine sectors. I would say it seems like, just thoughts are connected. That's, seems to be why that's the reason I'm in the hydrogen sector and then could leverage all my previous experience that I learned. So I'm really excited that while, not just in New York, the other U.S. jurisdiction and across globe, we are much along to fight this climate crisis, I would say. So they are across all the different sectors, we need to think about how to decarbonize. Certainly some sectors we can, rely on the renewables, wind and solar and battery. By all means, we should definitely leverage as much as we can using those technology. But as we deep decarbonize, which we need to in order to reach the target, then we will realize some of the sectors are really either technically or economically hard to electrify, yet they still emit a lot of the emissions that we need to figure out how to control. We do not want to just stay with the fossil fuel options. So that's where we got to evaluate different technology, including low carbon fuels, in which the clean hydrogen is a very promising technology. So I'm in this conference. I'm excited to see a lot of solar, battery storage, the booths here, and the people are working on that. Awesome. Looking beyond that, I can see hydrogen will grow, and they definitely will need them in the not too so far future. And I'm really happy to contribute to that growth. Business.
Absolutely. Well, New York has contributed to the growth of the solar industry. And as you'll see in Anaheim, there's an entire segment of RE Plus that's dedicated to the hydrogen economy. And hopefully we'll have you back in Anaheim to talk about how New York is progressing this year. But certainly we're all excited to see the contribution that hydrogen can make as a clean fuel to helping us decarbonize the grid and those hard to abate industries like steel, as an example that you alluded to earlier. Thank you for taking the time to join us here on the Power Up Live stage. It's great to see you.
Thank you. My pleasure.